Sales enablement is changing, and you got to keep up with it. Here's how you do so. Check it out. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have the one and only Shane Evans. Now, he is the CRO at Gong, and today we're having a conversation all around enablement. Specifically, what are some of the things that you need to be aware of that's changing when it comes to enablement? How can we be more effective? And if you're not doing these things, how can you get back on track so you can be effective when it comes to enablement? If you don't know what that is, you got to listen to this episode. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, this show is designed to help you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline with quality opportunity and help you to increase your close rate. Shane's going to give us exactly what we can do to make sure we're doing better enablement so we can perform in all of those areas with our prospecting and with our pipeline building and closing. He's going to give us what this simple strategy that sales leaders need to adopt and you as individual contributors, and how we can make sure that we're focusing on the areas that matter the most to us right now. As we dive in, you get a chance to hear more about him. He has extensive experience with Gong, but you're going to see why his experience and his knowledge ties so well to this topic. It's dope. Shane, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's great to be with you here today, Donald. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I am. You guys are like, when you hear you hear about somebody like your caliber with your experience and the background that you have, and coming from Gong, anytime you guys come with any data, I'm always just like, give it to me, give it to me. You guys have all kinds of good stuff, man. And that's why I'm so excited for this conversation today, because specifically, I find that so many of us in the world of sales enablement, whether it's like training or whatever we're doing, like enabling teams, we find that there's an evolution going on. And I really want to dive into that and get some insight from it. I bragged about you a little bit in the teaser there, but maybe tell us a little bit more about what your day-to-day role is with Gong.
You bet. So my official title at Gong is Chief Revenue Officer, and I think at every company that means something totally different based on your purview and which teams and departments you have. And so the easiest way to think about what I do every day is anything that touches the customer or prospects that are wanting to get into Gong, that's the world I live in. And so the majority of my day is focused on how do we create a high-performing team. So think sales development reps, sellers, solution engineers, implementation consultants, customer success representatives. Like it spans the whole gambit of how we're going to both educate and help customers be wildly successful. And at Gong, the founders established one of our operating principles being creating raving fans, which the company takes very seriously. And so every day we're trying to do everything we can to help organizations become more effective in how they build and grow their company. And so that's kind of my day to day.
That's dope. And I love what you shared there. That every organization is a little bit different with the CRO title. And I could agree with them on that. I think people are still trying to figure out footing on it. But I love how you guys have that vision. One of the first companies I worked for, a software company, was around, we read that book, Raving Fans. Everyone that came in the company, you read that like day one. And it was a culture, that ethos that was built around it. And I can see how that permeates in your roles and characters. So looking forward to it. So Shane, here's the money in it. What's going on? What's going on with enablement, man? Talk to me.
So let's back up. When we talk about enablement, there's a lot of problems and challenges that companies are dealing with right now. And I think one of the things that we found as we look at data, about 77% of sellers' time is spent on drudgery, mundane tasks of having to enter data into a system or provide a one-page summary on what's happening in an account up to their manager or to their leader. At the same time, attainment is at an all-time low. So sellers are only hitting about 30 to 35% of attainment, which means they're not making money, they're not winning as often as they want to, and companies aren't winning as much as they want to. And so we've entered this phase where organizations are trying to figure out how do we help people become more productive and allow them to be more successful. And that has an impact on our culture, on how we feel about ourselves and how we show up for our jobs every day. And so to your specific question, how does enablement play into that? At Gong, we're focused on what we call revenue intelligence. So how do you make it easier for people to do their job, but how do you help them identify where they can improve and give leaders indicators on where they should be focused and how do they become more effective? And so it's a really good time to be in the space that we're in around revenue intelligence, because we're trying to help people capture data, use it more effectively, and be able to identify those moments of truth where you can help coach and enable people to actually be more effective.
You know, the stat there really is alarming. For 77% and then 35%. I think some of us have learned, that there's a lot that you do on, the drudgery part as a sales professional is just, part of the territory. But that's a lot. That's high. That's like 77%. That's like most of your day doing stuff you ain't caring about. But what is changing though with this environment, when it comes to enablement in particular?
Yeah, so I'll give you one other stat here that's interesting. If you go look at the data that companies have access to, go peel back the layer of any CRM or ERP system, and what you'll find is they've got about 1% of the data. So we talk about all this time that people are spending entering data in, and when you peel back that layer and look at the actual data, you and I have a meeting today. We exchange about 6,000 words with each other. If there was a seller that was following this conversation and entering information into a database, it would sound something like, hey, Don and Shane just had a great conversation. I learned one or two things, and here's what I'm going to do with it. Or here's what's happening with this opportunity, and the deal is going to close. It only represents about 50 to 60 words. So that's where that 1% comes from. Of every interaction that you have, only about 1% of that information is making it into that CRM, into that database. So now you talk about enablement. How are we supposed to go and figure out where people need help if we only have 1% of the subjective, contextual picture of what's occurring? So what we're doing about it at Gong, we do activity capture on the front end. So any Zoom meeting, phone call, email, Slack message, we ingest all that information automatically. And then we update the systems. And so we know who the people are they're talking to. We know the context and the themes of what they're talking about. We know the challenges that are being surfaced. And we have all that information that we can then go and figure out, where do people need help? Now, there's really basic things as far as like talk time, questions that are being asked, like, are you asking the right question? Are you helping them uncover the challenges that they're facing? But then there's all sorts of themes around, where do we need to provide coaching? So now as a sales leader, if I come onto a call with one of my sellers, I now can go in and review the calls. I can have tags that are telling me where they need help. So if a seller is struggling with either competitive knowledge or intelligence, or asking the right questions to their prospects that they're working with, we can actually drill right into those areas of the call. And instead of having to sit on every single call that's occurring, I can actually give targeted coaching around where they're struggling based on what the system's telling us about where they're struggling. So as we think about enablement, as we think about helping people become more effective, that actually allows us to pinpoint where they're challenged. And then when they get real-time coaching and real-time guidance, we're seeing significant increases in the win rate and in the overall coverage they have with their number around pipeline, because we're helping them to become more effective in that moment, as opposed to having to sit through every call and giving them coaching and feedback that may not be as relevant or insightful for them, because it's only when we show up to the call.
Bro, I'm so excited. I mean, you sure you only got 20 minutes today? Can we do like in 2 hours? Because here's the thing. I just want you to don't want to get started. I'm just tripping over my words here, Shane. So excited. The first component, one, pretty dope. Two, the idea of relevance. We've been pushing that from the prospect standpoint. Like, how can I be more relevant with my prospect to know what Shane is dealing with as a CRO, and how can I bring value to him? But also now you just flipped the script on how we need to be more relevant to our team members. And we teach something called the platinum rule. The golden rule is treat others the way that you would like to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others the way that they would like to be treated. And what you're sharing here, especially when you're collecting data, it can really be the platinum rule. I can help a seller where they need help the most. And when you're talking about, like, are they asking the right question? In my head, I was asking in relative to what? But I can imagine this could be based on the stage. Like, if you're in a disco, are you asking the right question based on the data we've collected for the past, the past 30 people on the sales team, and then deals that close on average, blah, blah, blah percentage that are closing deals? These are the questions they should be asking. Donald, those questions aren't even coming up in your conversation, in your disco. You know what I mean? Like, am I making sense? Is this kind of like the way you're seeing that evolution of enablement and how your tools are helping people?
Absolutely. I'll go to another sales stage just to build on the example that you're giving. If I'm
Oh,
prospecting,
come on, man. Let's go. Sing about jam, man.
if I'm prospecting and I'm struggling, I just can't find my groove, I can't figure out the
Yeah.
right pitch and what to use, we can actually give them the top 10% of prospecting calls of sellers that have figured out how to do that more effectively. And then they
Yeah.
can go and watch that and figure out, okay, what are others doing that I'm not doing as well? And so that plays out in each different sales stage. And then we're able to see, like, hey, what does a great demo look like? What is a great competitive answer like? You're always dealing with differentiation situations where you have to stand out differently than others. And so you can really hone in on where you can give prospects the information that they need in that moment by seeing what the top 10% are doing. And so one of the things that we do at Gong, we identify the top 10% of performers in each one of those sales stages, and then we tag the actual calls that they're on. So this isn't about you hearing about it on a all hands meeting, going through a win review or going through a successful op that's been created. You're actually able to see the seller in real time and watch that question come up from a real prospect and then see how that top performer handles that situation. And then you can press pause and actually break it down with your leader so that you can not only see what you're seeing, but have them help point out and hold up the mirror on what you might be doing differently. And then you get those at bats, those reps. So then when you go and do it, you're having those captured and you can see in real time how you're doing. It's like being an athlete and having the opportunity to watch the game tape and review what's occurring as opposed to trying to guess on what you should be doing to be a top performer.
Come on, my goodness. It's like, don't reinvent the wheel. We got it already. It's amazing. Like, I'm thinking on the side of like the leader, like the leaders are saving tons of time, being way more effective. We know enablement is critical in many different levels in organization. It should happen in sales. One of the top reasons I was on a call last week with, we were talking with, there's a bunch of us influencers and folks in the sales enablement world, and we we're talking about some of our clients, specifically around those who are leaders and how they tend to have like so much that they need to do. And enablement doesn't play an important part in that. I'm seeing tools like this that can help to give that time back, where it does allow me as a leader to be a leader and to effectively coach, but not necessarily sacrificing the time to do so. Am I making sense on this?
Yeah. So let me, if you're a frontline leader, I think you have one of the toughest jobs in any company because you have 6 to 8 team members typically on average that you need to care for and help coach and develop. And one of the challenges you have is you can't be everywhere all the time. When you go from being an account executive to having your first gig as a leader, one of the biggest hurdles you have to overcome is no longer being super rep anymore, but you have to actually shift your mindset to becoming a coach and an advocate. And you got to find ways not only to celebrate the good things that are happening, but to give relevant feedback and coaching. Sometimes it can be hard. If you don't have game tape, if you don't have the help to know what great looks like versus what average looks like, it's really hard for you to give that insight back to that team that you're trying to help be successful. And so that's one area where we're making it easier for leaders to be in more places than one. I'm going to give you one other example for me as a CRO that's been super helpful as you kind of ladder up across an organization. Deal reviews is one of the most impactful things I can do as a leader, giving my time to get involved in a deal and to give coaching and insight on how to go and win an opportunity. However, for me to participate the right way in a deal review, it typically takes a team about 6 to 10 hours to put together all the information that I need to consume. It takes me 45 minutes to an hour to consume that in a way that gives me the context, and then I have to be thoughtful about the questions coming in. I'm cheating a little bit, but now when I go into a deal review, I don't ask the team to put anything together. In Gong, we have an Ask Me Anything feature that leverages the AI. It looks across all the interactions that have occurred between our team and a prospect, and I can say, what are the things the CRO needs to know about this deal? It gives me a summarized list based on my role of what the context is that I need to have. And then I can ask, why will we win or lose this opportunity? And it breaks it down in 2 separate summarized bullet lists. The first time I used this, I came into the call, I started asking questions that the team was literally trying to hide from me because they didn't want to be exposed. And so after the call, I had the sales leader call me and say, how did you know to ask those questions? And I said, Gong told me to focus there. And so now I get a chance to be me and to be a person as opposed to being a robot and trying to ask the questions that are based on some script and just help the team improve and be better. And so you talk about enablement, you talk about helping people to become more productive. We're giving people minutes, hours, time back in their day. And then we're being very targeted in where we need to focus to help them be as effective as possible. It actually has made my job a lot of fun because I get to help people and see the impact that can have as opposed to babysit them and try and hold them accountable.
It's like this idea of like if I go to the doctor and I keep telling the doctor, I don't tell the doctor what's really wrong with me. The doctor can't help me, right? And I think sometimes we may get embarrassed as sellers, like when we I don't want to come to you and tell you like, listen, I really don't understand what to do, Shane. I don't know where I mess it up, or I didn't ask for the price, or I'll come back and say, yeah, they say the price is too expensive, or we're out of their range, or whatever. But the point is, I'm giving you what I say, but now I can't hide that anymore. I can't, like you said, the questions were exposed that were supposed to be exposed, because that's what's going to help move that deal forward. And I feel that makes it so much more effective for you, for the whole organization. Because my next question is, and I don't know if I'm putting you on a spot here with this, if there are any success stories or anyone that you have that you've seen results with, or your organization's seen results with, where when they've implemented something like this, how their team productivity and overall close increase.
You bet. And I'd love for you to put me on the spot, Donald. That's why I'm here.
Yeah, cool. I knew you were gonna do it, man. I feel like I'm just like jamming with you. I'm like, this dude got all this good stuff. I want to hear it. It's just natural in the convo.
I love it, man. So Gong, we have 4,000 plus customers today. They use us for all sorts of different use cases, but I'm going to give you two that I want to talk about. So Upwork, public company, it's challenging being in a public market today because you have to be accurate. They have used Gong to really improve their forecasting accuracy. So in the first 3 quarters using Gong, their forecasting accuracy has gone up to 95+%. Prior to that, if you go back and even look at some of like the stock performance, it was up and down a little bit because they were having a hard time getting visibility and getting accuracy in the areas that they needed it. Now, you started this out talking about enablement. When we're enabling behavior, coaching behavior, it has to do with like things around pipe creation, pipe development, forecasting. So Upwork is using that to improve their forecasting and their ability to be a lot more accurate. That now plays out in their stock price because they're much more accurate in how they are managing the day-to-day and how they're providing data to the folks that need to manage up and out for the business. Another one, ADP, payroll company, tens of thousands of employees. They're using Gong to improve their win rates, their average contract value, and their productivity. And so these companies that you would think of that may not be as progressive, they're using AI in a way for very simplistic activities around things like op creation, pipe development. They're not trying to get cute. It's focused on basic execution. The everyday low-hanging fruit activities that we're involved in, that we're spending countless minutes and hours in trying to get it right by giving people busy work, as opposed to focused on really healthy discussion around where we can improve, what are the behaviors that we need to focus on, and where are we exposed? Where are the areas that we can actually change the norm by getting it right and identifying what the top performers are doing differently than everybody else, and then taking that behavior and sharing it across the board in a coaching format.
I love everything with this. Everything with this. Oh my goodness. There's a, and I think like and this is back up again, I'm just from my naivete. ADP in a company like that, they have a huge team. Somebody who's listening to this, they may not necessarily have a huge team. Is it going to be complicated for them to take Gong out of the box and to get that to set up in a way that their team can be more effective? What's that process like? Because I want to make sure that their enablement can be caught up just as quick as ADP's could be. Am I making sense there?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I mentioned 4,000 customers. We have so many that are, you have 3 to 10 employees where you don't even have necessarily a sales leader or a sales ops function. Can those size of companies benefit from Gong? Here's the magic. Any company that wants to become an AI company, it starts with data. The majority of us aren't creating big compute engines to analyze data. We're also not creating our own LLM models, our own language models to analyze that data. So we then got to figure out, how do we benefit and leverage AI? It's about the data that you capture. So within a matter of minutes, you can enable your sellers to actually start capturing information, capturing data that you can automatically get benefit from regardless of the size of the organization. And if you truly want to become an AI company, the only way to become an AI company is to actually find ways to harness all the contextual data that's out there. And that is not limited to the medium or big companies. Any company of any size can actually start that AI journey by capturing the contextual data and then acting on it for pipe creation, pipe development, forecasting, territory design. Like, it just goes down the list of all the activities that we are engaged in as sellers. And that contextual data will make any tool, any sales tool in your tech stack more valuable by having the right data to power into that journey.
Oh, so darn good. I love it. I love it. Listen, I could talk to you for days, Shane. This stuff has just got me so pumped, getting me so excited here. I feel like the world of, if I were to sum up our conversation into that 1% word, 1% of words, it would just be the idea that sales enablement nowadays, the evolution of sales enablement is ultra personalized, and the way you ultra personalize is based on the data of the individual. Am I off on that?
No, I would just building on that. It's helping people to get the information they need to make them more effective in their day to day. And so enablement is no longer about just creating generic documents and pumping it out for people to try and act on. It's identifying the skills, the behaviors that where people have gaps, and then being very targeted in the moment to give them the coaching, the information they need to be more effective. And we're all this talk right now about jobs being eliminated, about attainment rates being low. We got to use data in a way that allows us to be more effective and not let these negative headlines or press take over in a way that doesn't allow us to do our best work. Because the tools are available if we know how to harness them, if we know how to focus on the right activities and the right behavior to help our team become more successful. So I'm more bullish and optimistic than I've ever been. We just got to find a way to harness and leverage that data in a way that makes our teams more effective.
I love it, man. I love it. Listen, Shane, if folks out there listening to this episode want to get in touch with you, want to learn about Gong, how do they go about doing so? What do you recommend they go to?
Shane.evans@gong.io is the easiest way to get me. I'm on LinkedIn as well. Gong.io is the website. All the information's there and available. We'd love to have a conversation about how companies can more fully take advantage of revenue intelligence and get started on their AI journey, because it's going to be a lot of opportunity, and it starts with harnessing all the contextual data that's available.
I love it, man. Boom. Love it. Thanks so much, Shane, for coming on the show today.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to meet you. Appreciate the time.
I'm telling you, man, that was Shane Evans. If you haven't done so already, connect with him on LinkedIn. Tell him that you heard him here on the Sales Evangelist podcast. I love the stats and the data. I mean, one of them that stood out to me that I was writing notes down here about 77% of the seller's time is spent doing some of those drudgery work. So we need to fix that. We need to make sure we're doing things effectively. Check out what Gong's offering and see if it could benefit you. As always, I want you to check out our sponsors as well. They have some amazing offers and deals for you so you can best benefit from them. As always, we want you to thrive. We want you to succeed. We want you to raise your level of thinking, build some pipeline, close some deals, make some money, but go out and do big things. See you on the next one.